My entitled son was overjoyed collecting all the eggs on Easter. So I punished him. I demanded he give his eggs to his cousin and then grounded him for advising me on helping his cousin with searching. He sulked at home. So I took away his switch, then kicked him out just as a threat. Now my whole family has abandoned me. I 40F have 3 kids. Samuel 14M, Henry 10M, and Clara 8. My husband, James, 42M, has 2 brothers, Richard and Michael, both married with kids of their own. Every Easter, we do a big family picnic at a park nearby with all of them, including my in-laws. This year was no different. Everyone brought food. The grandparents planned an egg hunt, and the kids were all buzzing with excitement. To set the scene, the kids involved were mine, Samuel, Henry, and Clara. Richard's daughters Abigail, 15F, and Natalie, 12F. Michael's kids, Timmy, 6M, and Ella, 8F, and Michael's oldest son, Caleb, 16M. So, 9 kids in total, ages ranging from 6 to 16. My in-laws had hidden exactly 16 plastic eggs per child all around the park on the playsets under benches near the basketball court. They made it clear that this wasn't a competition and that the goal was for each kid to find 16 eggs. The rules were simple and fair. My Phil explained them clearly while all the kids sat on picnic blankets stuffing their faces with deviled eggs and sandwiches. Before I even get into the issue, I need to say this. Henry has been testing my patience a lot lately. He's gotten to this age where he thinks he's the smartest one in the room. He's always quick with some comeback, acts smug when he wins anything, and just seems to enjoy being a show-off. I've had to pull him aside multiple times in the past few months. There was one time during a family game night where he kept cheering loudly every time he got a trivia question right, even clapping for himself. And when his cousin Natalie missed something simple, he literally fist-pumped and shouted, "Yes." It was embarrassing. I took him into the hallway and told him to tone it down. I said, "You're not 5. You don't need to scream every time you win something." I remember even saying, "You claim to be a teenager now. Start acting like that." Because he keeps insisting he's basically 11. Like that makes him grown. Another time we were at a friend's birthday party and Henry beat all the younger kids at this water balloon toss game. He was dancing around afterwards like he won the Olympics. I told him, "You don't need to celebrate every time you beat kids half your size." He sulked after that. But honestly, I thought it was a fair point. Anyway, fast forward to Easter. As soon as the egg hunt started, Henry darted off with Clara. I could see him weaving through the park like he was on a mission. The older teens mostly hung back, helping the little ones, but Henry was going full throttle. Meanwhile, I noticed Timmy, my youngest nephew, was struggling. He's 6, and he just kept going around the same section of the playground, getting more frustrated. My Bill Richard was gently trying to redirect him, telling him to try near the benches or trees, but Timmy kept wandering in circles. I felt bad. He's a sweet kid and just wasn't getting the hang of it. My Phil and James were watching too, but they didn't step in. A few minutes later, Henry comes marching back to our picnic table, grinning with all 16 eggs in his basket. He was the first one done. Clara had about 10 at the time. Samuel and the older cousins were still searching or helping the smaller ones. Then I looked over and saw Timmy sitting in the sandbox with just 3 eggs. He looked miserable. So I turned to Henry and said, "Give Timmy 13 of your eggs." He looked at me like I had 3 heads. He asked, "Why?" I told him, "Because he only has 3 and you already finished. It's not a race. Everyone's supposed to get 16. You're quick at this, so just go find more for yourself." He flat out refused. He said, "That's not fair. I found them. I can help him find some, but I'm not giving mine away." I wasn't surprised. This is exactly the attitude I've been trying to correct. He was being selfish again and clearly couldn't understand that sometimes you need to think about someone other than yourself. Timmy's mom, Laura Mail, was on my side. She said, "That's really kind of you to suggest." Timmy's had a rough week at school too, but my husband and Richard both stepped in and said Henry was being fair. My Phil too. They all thought Henry offering to help was already generous enough, but the way I saw it, it was inefficient and missing the point. Timmy was upset now. The easiest, most helpful thing would have been for Henry to give him the eggs and go find more. Timmy's 6. He's not going to suddenly become better at this. He needs help, and Henry can actually do something about it. Henry kept resisting. I'll admit I lost my patience then. I snapped at him, told him to stop being so proud of himself. You don't get a trophy for beating a bunch of 6-year-olds. Grow up. He crossed his arms and stared at the ground. Didn't say anything. I told him, "If you don't give those eggs to Timmy, you're losing your Switch and your iPad for a week. Your choice." Henry stared at me like I'd slapped him. He muttered something under his breath, stomped over to Timmy, and dropped 13 eggs into his little basket. Then he walked off again without saying a word. I didn't say thank you. I didn't see why I should. It wasn't a favor. It was the right thing to do. He had an attitude about it, of course, dragging his feet and sulking as he wandered off to find more eggs. I kept my eye on him the whole time. He wasn't really looking, just kicking at leaves and brushing past the trees. That was fine. If he wanted to mope instead of helping, that was his call. Laura was grateful. She sat next to me and said, "Thank you." I know it probably didn't make him happy, but it meant a lot for Timmy. I shrugged. He needs to learn that things aren't always about him. Later, we packed up and started heading back. Henry wouldn't look at me. In the car, he started crying. I asked him what his problem was. He said nothing. When we got home, he went straight to his room. I heard him slam the door. Again, nothing new. He's been doing that kind of dramatic stuff for months now. I went in about an hour later and told him to give me his Switch and iPad. He asked how long the punishment would last. I said, "A week. You don't get to act like that and keep your privileges." He said I embarrassed him. That I humiliated him in front of the whole family. That he was the only one being punished for doing exactly what was asked. I told him the rules weren't the issue. The attitude was. The selfishness, the stubbornness. He pushed back again, said he did offer to help, and everyone else said that was enough. I told him again that his job as an older kid is to make things easier for the younger ones, not harder. I said, "You want to be treated older? Act older. Act responsibly. Stop crying every time you don't get your way." He didn't answer after that, just gave me the iPad and Switch and turned his back. For the next few days, he barely spoke to me, only when absolutely necessary. I wasn't concerned. Kids get mad. They get over it. I wasn't about to apologize for trying to teach him decency. What did surprise me was how many people thought I was in the wrong. My husband pulled me aside that night and said I went too far. That Henry didn't deserve to be punished for collecting eggs faster than a 6-year-old. I reminded him that Henry refused to help until he was threatened, that it wasn't about speed, it was about attitude. He said it still wasn't right to take his things away over Easter eggs. A couple of his nieces also chimed in later. Abigail 15F said she thought it was kinda messed up that Henry had to give away what he found. Natalie 12F said Henry looked really upset and she didn't like how the grown-ups handled it. Even my older son Samuel said I wouldn't have given them up either. I told him that if he had a little more empathy, maybe he'd see the difference. But I'm not pretending Henry is some victim here. He's had this quirky streak for a while. Winning everything, lording it over the younger kids, refusing to help unless it benefits him. He's not mean, but he's inconsiderate. I've seen it in group games, birthday parties, and even just walking ahead of his siblings without looking back. He thinks being better at something means he doesn't have to share the moment. I don't agree with that. Kids like Timmy, they're slower, more sensitive, and they struggle. If someone like Henry can afford to be generous and still come out ahead, he should. The point wasn't about plastic eggs, it was about being a better person. My Sil Laura agrees with me. She said Timmy had come home much happier and that he felt proud to have finished the hunt. That reinforced it for me. You can't demand to be treated like an adult and then throw a fit when you're asked to do something inconvenient. That said, the amount of pushback I got makes me wonder if people really understood what I was trying to do. I wasn't rewarding bad behavior. I was correcting selfishness. Still, almost everyone except Laura and Abigail surprisingly thinks I went too far. They say I was unfair to Henry. That I should have let him be proud of finishing first. That helping Timmy should have been voluntary. Maybe they're right. Maybe I pushed too hard, but I still think Henry needed the lesson. Ada comments. Comment 1 Utah. And not just for what happened that day. It's the whole pattern you have with Henry. You don't parent him. You punish him for having emotions you don't like. You're frustrated that he's confident or maybe a little proud of himself. Tough. That's normal. Kids who are good at things should be allowed to feel good about it. Instead, you interpret his excitement as arrogance and try to crush it. I've been that parent, too, thinking humility meant shrinking my kid down. All it did was make her resentful. You didn't teach Henry to be kind to his cousin. You forced him. He offered help, which was the right move. But that wasn't enough for you because you wanted control. You didn't care about a solution. You cared about making him bend. And now you've probably ensured he won't want to help again because you made generosity feel like punishment. You didn't build empathy. You built resentment. Comment 2. Uda 100%. There were multiple adults there, including Timmy's actual dad and grandparents. Literally any one of them could have taken his hand and helped him look for more eggs. You know what adults do. But instead, you all stood around watching this kid spin in circles while your 10-year-old son was made to fix the problem. Henry busted his R's to find those eggs fair and square. He even offered to help Timmy afterwards. That's mature as hell. What did you do? Threatened to rip away his Switch and iPad unless he gave them up. Congrats. You didn't just ruin this Easter. You probably ruined the entire concept of Easter egg hunts for your kid. You embarrassed him, invalidated his effort, and shoved him into a position no child should be in, being punished for doing something well. You owe Henry a real apology in front of the whole family. And yeah, You better throw in a damn good treat while you're at it because your parenting in this moment sucked. Comment 3. Uta. Henry's idea helping Timmy look for more eggs was the actual mature approach here. That's what empathy and teamwork look like. You dismissed that because you wanted a quick fix, but all you did was punish your son for being thoughtful in a way that didn't follow your script. You said Timmy has been struggling and that you were worried about his self-esteem. Well, you just damaged Henry's. You taught him that even when he does well and offers to help, it's not enough. He has to lose something in order for you to feel like he learned something. You aren't doing Timmy any favors either. What's he supposed to take from this? That people will be forced to make him feel successful. That failure is solved by adults manipulating others on your behalf. You stole an opportunity for real bonding between cousins because you couldn't be bothered to let them work it out. This story reads like something Henry will tell his friends or maybe a therapist years from now when someone asks why he doesn't talk to you anymore. Update. I wasn't planning to update, but everything took a turn I genuinely didn't see coming. And before anyone jumps in, no. I still don't think expecting a 10-year-old to show empathy is unreasonable. People in the comments keep acting like Henry is a toddler. He isn't. He's old enough to understand when someone else needs help, and he's definitely old enough to stop acting like the world ends every time he's asked to do something uncomfortable. After Easter, Henry barely spoke to me, unless it was unavoidable. It wasn't silent treatment, exactly, more like he was on autopilot. He answered in one-word sentences, kept his head down, didn't ask for anything, and didn't smile. I tried to be patient for a few days, thinking he'd move past it. Kids usually do. But he didn't. I sat him down one afternoon after school and told him directly, "This has gone on long enough. You need to let the incident go. You weren't wrong. You were asked to help your younger cousin because you're older and more capable. Move past it." He didn't argue, just stared at a spot on the carpet. I asked him if he even heard me. He nodded once but didn't look up. That annoyed me more, so I told him that if he wanted to keep dragging this out, he would be grounded again. I took his switch back. Even though he had already earned it back after the initial punishment, he didn't protest. He just went to his room. Same as usual. Then fast forward about 2 weeks. It was Natalie's 12th birthday. The whole family was meeting again for a small gathering. I told Henry we were going. He said he didn't want to. I told him he didn't get a vote. He still refused to get ready. Finally, I told him very clearly, "If you skip this family event, I will cancel your birthday party this year. I'm not negotiating." He froze in place and then went to get dressed without another word. He came, but he acted like a shadow the entire time. He stood on the edges of group photos, didn't smile, and didn't talk unless someone forced him into a conversation. He kept glancing at me like he was blaming me for being there. Honestly, it was embarrassing. Everyone else was upbeat for the birthday, and my kid was in a moody fog because he can't handle being told no. After that party, things didn't improve. Actually, they got worse in subtle ways. One afternoon, we were at the park with some neighbors. One of their toddlers, maybe 3 years old, toddled over to Henry and pointed at a small toy car Henry had brought. He wasn't using it at the moment. It was sitting in the grass next to him. The mom said, "Oh, he really likes that little car. Could he play with it for a bit?" She was smiling politely. Henry hesitated, not rudely, more like he wasn't sure what to do. Before he could answer, I stepped in because frankly, I wasn't dealing with another mine meltdown. I said to Henry, "Prove to me you're a good kid, at least this time." He looked at me. Then, without a word, he handed the toy over and walked straight home. He didn't even wait for me or his siblings. When I got home 10 minutes later, he was already in his room with the door shut. I told James what happened, expecting him to finally see what I've been dealing with. The moodiness, the overreactions, the dramatic withdrawals. Instead, he said, "Maybe ease up. He's been having a rough month." I snapped at him. He's having a rough month because he refuses to let go of one minor situation. Raising 3 kids isn't easy, and I don't have time for these emotional theatrics. James said he understood that, but Henry's not bouncing back like he usually does. He's not playing outside, not talking much, and not laughing at anything. The teachers emailed us saying he stopped turning in class and stares at his desk most of the day. They recommended a meeting, and now James has made it his full-time mission to snap him out of it. He's doing extra one-on-one activities with him, trying to joke with him and taking him out for short drives. None of it is working. Henry sits there, quiet, detached. Meanwhile, I'm the bad guy. Not directly, no one is saying that out loud, but the way they tiptoe around me is obvious. The grandparents are acting overly cautious. Samuel is giving me short answers too, like he's scared to take sides. Clara is the only one acting normal, but she's 8 and doesn't pick up on dynamics like this. I'm also dealing with something none of them seem to recognize. I can't afford to piss off my sister-in-law Laura right now. I owe her money a decent amount from last year. I've been making small payments, but realistically, I'm not paying it off anytime soon. If things sour between us, it becomes a financial problem too. So, yes, her agreeing with me about the Easter situation helped. I'm not pretending otherwise. I can't afford conflict with her financially or socially. And before anyone judges that sometimes parenting is about balancing what's best for the family overall, not catering to one child's emotional hiccup. But now I'm stuck in this situation where I feel like I'm the only adult maintaining expectations while everyone else is bending over backwards because Henry is acting fragile. The school wants a meeting. James thinks I need to rebuild trust. Henry barely speaks unless necessary. Samuel is distant. Laura is overly sweet, which worries me because she only gets like that when she senses tension. I'm frustrated and overloaded and trying to keep all 3 kids on track. And instead of support, I'm tiptoeing around a 10-year-old who refuses to move on. I don't know if this is an overreaction on his part, emotional manipulation, or something else entirely. But I didn't think asking him to share Easter eggs and then expecting him to let it go afterwards would spiral into this. I still stand by my point. He isn't a small kid anymore. He's capable of compassion. The reaction he's having now feels disproportionate, and I don't know where to go from here. Comments. Comment 1. Uda. He didn't smile at a birthday party. So what? He handed a toy over without a word. Okay. And he doesn't get excited to join family gatherings anymore. That's not attitude. That's withdrawal. And withdrawal is a symptom. You are actively turning parenting into a power struggle. Everything becomes a moral test where Henry has to prove he's a good person. That's some twisted, T to put on a 10-year-old. You treat basic kindness like a test he keeps failing even when he's complying. And that proved to me you're a good kid line. Jesus Christ. What kind of parent says that out loud? You're not raising a kid. You're training him like a damn show dog and punishing him when he doesn't bark on command. He didn't fail you. You failed him. Period. Comment 2. This post made my stomach turn. You say he's not a small child anymore. That's the problem. He isn't. And you still treat him like he's supposed to act younger and older at the same time depending on what suits you. He's 10. That's not a teenager. That's a child trying to figure out his place in a world where even his own parent questions if he's a good kid. That phrase, "Prove to me you're a good kid, at least this time," will stick with him. I promise you, he'll hear that one line every time he doubts himself, every time someone criticizes him, every time he messes up, because it didn't sound like discipline, it sounded like a verdict. You're not raising him, you're wearing him down. And when kids like that hit teenage years, they either disappear emotionally or snap completely. You won't see it coming until he stops coming to you altogether. Comment 3. What's fascinating here isn't just your parenting, it's how your entire family's dynamics are unraveling, and you don't even seem to register it. Samuel is distant. Clara is mimicking you for now. James is quietly shifting loyalty to Henry. Your in-laws are cautious around you. Even your Sil, the one you're financially indebted to, is walking on eggshells. You're losing influence and doubling down because you sense it, but don't want to face why. And then there's Henry, who you keep describing like he's a problem to be managed instead of a person you're supposed to nurture. He gave in, obeyed, and stayed quiet. And you still interpret that as defiance. You're so caught up in your own narrative of being right that you've completely lost sight of the consequences. You're not the parent keeping the family together. You're the one holding it hostage. Update. I didn't expect things to fall apart this badly. I knew Henry was upset. Fine. I knew he was moody and stubborn and not letting go of something minor, but I didn't expect everything to collapse over it. I didn't expect my entire family to flip the way they did. Let's start with what happened at school last week. I got an email from Henry's teacher saying he had an emotional outburst during a science group project. He snapped at another kid, refused to participate, then shoved his desk back and just sat with his arms crossed the rest of class. When the teacher asked him to explain, he told her, "I'm tired of people forcing me to do stuff." They called it oppositional behavior and wanted to follow up with the counselor. I was stunned, not because Henry had misbehaved. I knew he'd been acting off, but because they were now tossing around labels. They're hinting at things like depression, oppositional defiance, and emotional trauma, all from one argument. It felt like a total overreaction. James disagreed. He thought it made sense, said Henry was probably just overwhelmed and that the behavior fit the pattern. I didn't like that phrase pattern. That makes it sound like there's something wrong with him, like my son is damaged, James said. We need to listen to what they're seeing. But all I heard was the school calling my kid unstable and my husband nodding along. To make it worse, James thought it would be a good idea to invite the counselor to our house to help Henry see we're all on the same team. He didn't tell me until the night before. I was furious. A teacher coming into my house to tell me how to raise my son. No warning, no heads up, no consent, but James brushed it off like it was no big deal. The visit was tense from the moment she arrived. I said maybe 5 words. She smiled politely, complimented our living room, and then gently started asking Henry about emotional safety at home. I nearly exploded. Henry didn't say much, but I could tell he liked her. That only pissed me off more. After she left, I told James never to do something like that again. He said I was being paranoid and that we all have blind spots. I figured if Henry wanted a peace offering, fine. I bought him a new case for his tablet and told him I'd let him go to the arcade that weekend if he started turning his homework in on time and dropped the sulking. He looked at me, set the case on the table, and walked out of the room. That was the last straw for me. I've offered grace and I've tried to meet him halfway, but every time he walks away like I'm the enemy. Then came the family dinner. Everyone was there. James, the kids, my in-laws, Michael and Laura, and the nieces and nephews. I was already tense because I knew people had been talking. Ever since Easter, there's been this fake niceness around me, like people are waiting for me to explode. Honestly, I don't even know how it started. But suddenly, Laura brought up how thankful she was that Timmy had such supportive cousins. I knew what she was doing. She was referencing Henry again, dragging it out, painting him as a bad guy by omission. I made a comment, something like, well, some kids know how to appreciate what they're given. James shot me a look. Laura went quiet. Henry stiffened. Then Samuel of all people spoke up. This is why no one wants to talk to you anymore. It was like a gun went off. I turned to him and said, excuse me. He stood up red-faced and said, you've ruined everything. You treat Henry like garbage, and now Clara is scared, and I want nothing to do with this family. Then he stormed out. I turned to Henry and yelled, you know what? You want to cry to Grandma and Grandpa about how mean I am? Go live there. Go walk there right now and don't come back. I'm done with the victim act. He went completely pale. James shouted, enough. But I'd already stood up and pointed at the door. He got up and left. James followed him. Everyone else sat there in stunned silence. Even Clara looked scared. 30 minutes later, my in-laws came to the door with James. He didn't look at me. He said, we're taking Henry for now. I laughed and said, you think that'll help? And Clara started crying and said she wanted to go too. I don't want to stay with Mommy, she said. I want to go with Henry. I was stunned. Samuel had locked himself in his room, refusing to speak to me. James packed bags for all 3 kids. Then he came back down, sat on the couch, and said the words I'll never forget. You need help? Therapy? Medication? Something. You are not well. You are not safe for these kids right now. And if you don't fix it, I will divorce you and fight for custody. I told him he had no idea what I've been carrying. The stress, the loneliness, the bills, the pressure. I told him about the loans I took from Laura. I admitted I hadn't kept up with payments, that I've been spending more than we can afford on clothes, on keeping up appearances, on things that made me feel normal. He went quiet, then said, why would you do that? Why didn't you tell me? I didn't have an answer. Because what was I going to say? I like living a certain way. I didn't want to feel like we were poor. All I said was because I didn't want you to think less of me. His response, I don't think less of you. I think you're selfish and reckless. And if you don't pull it together, I'm not going to let you keep hurting our kids. He left with them that night. I'm alone now. I sleep in a bed that feels twice as large. Every room looks too clean. No noise, no arguing, no footsteps, no door slams. I got what I wanted? Silence. But I didn't think silence would hurt this much. James hasn't answered my texts. Laura hasn't followed up on the loan yet, probably enjoying the power shift. The kids are all at my in-laws. I don't even know if they'll come back. I keep thinking about Clara crying, about Samuel yelling, about Henry leaving. I know people will say this is the consequence of my own actions. Maybe it is, but I never expected my husband to abandon me the second I became a financial burden. Not after everything I've done for this family. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I wasn't keeping anything together at all. Comments. Comment 1. You know what? I don't even feel bad for you. You nuked your own family and now want pity because you're lonely. That's the part that gets me. You don't miss your kids. You miss being in charge of them. You kicked your son out of your house in front of your entire family and told him to go cry to his grandparents, and now you're shocked your daughter begged to leave too. You spent months making him feel worthless. Mocked him when he showed normal emotions and accused him of emotional theatrics because he didn't bounce back like a damn cartoon character. And then you want credit for offering him a tablet case. And the second your husband said you needed help, you turned it into he abandoned me. No. He drew a line. He gave you a reality check. He did what you refused to do. Put the kids first. You're not a victim here. You're just facing consequences. You don't get points for finally admitting the debt when it blew up in your face. Get help for real and don't do it so they come back. Do it because they deserve better than who you've become. Comment 2. This entire post gave me flashbacks. I grew up with a mom just like you. Everything was always about how she felt, her embarrassment, her frustration, her loneliness, my emotions, inconveniences. You didn't just ruin your relationship with Henry. You poisoned your whole family dynamic. You created an environment where love was transactional. Prove to me you're a good kid. Earn your gift by being less upset. Smile for the camera or else. And when your kids finally broke under that pressure, you blamed them. You say you're sad your husband abandoned you the second you made him responsible for the money. But that wasn't the trigger. That was the final straw. He watched you emotionally batter his kid, lie about your debt, and turn the family into your personal hierarchy of approval. If you don't see that, if you keep centering yourself in this story, you'll stay exactly where you are. Alone, confused, and resented by the people who once needed you most. Comment 3. I've got 3 kids, a full-time job, aging parents, and bills up to my ears. So, believe me, I get how easy it is to lose your grip and lash out. But here's the difference. When I screw up, and I do, I own it. I apologize. I don't punish my kids' sadness. You had so many chances to stop this spiral. Henry offered help. You called it selfish. He gave away the toy. You shamed him. Clara cried to leave with her brother and you were shocked. Why? She's been watching. They all have. And now that everyone's gone, you want to talk about being abandoned. Girl, you kicked your own 10-year-old out and dared him to walk to his grandparents. Your family didn't abandon you. They escaped. Get therapy. Update. I didn't think things could get worse, but they did. And before anyone jumps in with consequences, let me say this. I didn't deserve for my entire life to collapse because my 10-year-old couldn't handle being asked to be kind. People have blown this so far out of proportion that I barely recognize my own family anymore. A week after the kids left with James, I drove to my in-laws to talk to them face to face. I didn't call first. I figured I shouldn't have to. I'm their daughter-in-law, mother of their grandchildren. I expected at least enough respect to open the door. Instead, when I knocked, my mill cracked it open like I was a stranger selling something. She stepped outside and shut the door behind her. Wouldn't even let me in the house. I asked to speak to the kids. She said, "Not right now." I told her I wasn't leaving without seeing them. Then she said, "Henry doesn't want to see you. And we're respecting that." I thought she was bluffing, so I pushed past her into the entryway only for my Phil to block me. He said, "You need to leave before you make this worse." I demanded Henry come downstairs. Instead, I heard footsteps. James coming down with Clara holding his hand. Clara saw me and immediately stepped behind him, gripping his arm. That gutted me more than anything. I tried calling her name. She wouldn't look at me. Samuel didn't appear at all. I asked why everyone was acting like I was dangerous. No one answered. James just said, "Go home." I refused. I said they were poisoning my kids against me. That's when James said, "You did that yourself." 3 days later, I was served divorce papers. Not trial, separation, not counseling, actual divorce. James moved fast, almost like he'd been preparing full custody request, child support calculations, notes about emotional harm and unsafe parenting dynamics, like I'm some unstable abuser, not the mother who carried and raised those kids. I called him, but he blocked my number. Called for my work phone. He hung up before I finished saying his name. Around this time, Laura suddenly remembered the money I owed her. She asked for repayment, not privately, but in our family group chat. She wrote, "OP, any update on the repayment timeline?" With a smiley face. Everyone saw it. I wanted to die from humiliation. With the divorce settlement, I got a payout, not huge, but enough to clear the loan. I sent Laura her money immediately. She responded with a one-word text, "Received." No thanks. No acknowledgement, nothing. As if the second I paid her back, she didn't need to pretend to be supportive anymore. I used some of the remaining money to put down on a small condo. I hate it. After moving in, reality hit hard. I needed a job. James always made more, and I've been part-time for years. I've applied everywhere. Admin jobs, retail, receptionist positions. I've gotten 2 interviews, both ending with, "We'll call you." They didn't. Being alone in that condo all day, waiting for emails that never come, is its own kind of torture. As for my kids, they might as well exist on another planet. They refused to come to my place. The court ordered visitation, but James told the judge the kids were emotionally distressed. The judge didn't force anything, just scheduled a hearing for later. So, I get nothing for now. I've texted them. Short neutral messages. "Hope school is going well. I miss you. Let me know if you want to talk." Only Clara replied once with "I'm okay." That's it. Henry never answered. Samuel never answered. My oldest son has gone completely no contact. Henry, too. And everyone acts like that's normal. Meanwhile, I keep hearing through relatives that James is stepping up and doing great with the kids. Like he's some hero for taking the easy way out and abandoning the messy parts. He got rewarded for running. People keep telling me I should take accountability. But any time I try to explain myself, I'm met with judgment or silence. No one listens. No one believes my side. Everyone thinks I'm this cruel, irrational mother who kicked her child out for no reason. They twist everything. No one mentions that Henry disrespected me for months. No one mentions the pressure I was under with the loan. No one mentions how alone I felt trying to manage everything. They all turned on me the second the story got inconvenient. A few days ago, I had my first supervised visit with Clara and Henry, or rather the visit I was supposed to have. Henry refused to come into the room. He sat in the hallway with his grandfather. Clara sat across from me, fidgeting, wouldn't look at me, wouldn't talk. I tried asking how school was. She didn't answer. I asked if she missed me. She said, "Daddy says not to talk about that." I asked if she wanted to come live with me sometimes. She shook her head. Henry didn't enter once. I came home after that visit and realized that nothing I do matters anymore. My family decided the narrative without me. I'm the problem. I'm the unstable one. I'm the mother. They escaped. And the moment I needed support financially, emotionally, James ran. He gets to play the savior while I'm stuck in an empty condo, jobless, miserable, and treated like a cautionary tale. I'm trying. I'm applying for work. I'm attending court-ordered parenting classes. I've even reached out to therapists, though half of them are booked for months. I'm doing what I'm supposed to. But none of that changes the fact that my entire family turned their backs on me without giving me one honest chance to explain myself. They only ever saw the worst version of the story, never the full picture. I don't know what comes next, but right now, I'm alone and everyone seems perfectly fine with that. Comment 1. Oh, you're still centering yourself like you're the one who was hurt most, but you were the one holding the match. You lit the fuse and now you're shocked the house burned down. That moment you told Henry to go cry to your grandparents and don't come back. That wasn't a mistake. That was a calculated punishment meant to shame him into submission. And now that he actually took you at your word and left, you're calling him ungrateful. What stands out most to me is how you describe every person in your life like they owe you something. James was supposed to stay loyal while you lied about debt. The kids were supposed to get over it and your in-laws were supposed to let you in after you emotionally exiled their grandson. You want your kids to see your pain, but all they've seen is that your pain always comes at the expense of theirs. That's why they're gone. Comment 2. You say James ran the second you made him responsible for money. But that's a lie you're telling yourself so you don't have to face the actual issue. You financially deceived your spouse. You took loans behind his back, lived above your means, and had no real plan for repayment. Then you tried to keep Laura on your side because you owed her, which affected how you treated Henry. That's manipulative. Full stop. You still haven't said what you spent all that money on, just that you liked a certain lifestyle. That tells me this wasn't about family survival. It was about image. And the second James questioned it, you made yourself the victim. It wasn't the money. It was the secrecy, the control, the emotional games, and the refusal to take responsibility until it exploded. And even now, your update ends with, no one gave me a chance. You had dozens of chances. You chose pride every time. Comment 3. Henry won't even enter the room. Clara hides behind her dad. Samuel won't text you back at all. These aren't rebellious kids. They're scared of you. Emotionally, psychologically, they don't trust that they'll be safe around you. Kids don't go no contact with a parent unless they've reached a breaking point. Yours hit theirs together. That's rare and says a hell of a lot. You keep saying no one believes you. But I think everyone does believe you. They just don't agree with your version of reality. That's why you're alone. You want sympathy, but you've shown zero actual remorse. No ownership. No apology until you start with, I hurt my kids and I need to change. Nothing's going to shift. And honestly, that's on you. Second story, my family left me on the streets claiming I'm ashamed to them. And now came back after 5 years demanding my son for their family business, claiming I owe my son to the family for disappointing them years ago. In 2020, I, 30, did something horrible to my family by stealing from them to fund my addiction. I stole some electronics, including old cell phones, a game console, and a Blu-ray player to buy H.R. Royan. I cannot and will not justify these actions and fully accept them as my own and their consequences. I was caught, and my family became aware of my addiction. It was hard to see my parents realize what was happening. But the hardest was seeing how heartbroken my 17-year-old little sister was. They dropped me off at a rehab center where I spent 3 months getting detoxed and sober. I did not hear from them while I was in there. I tried calling to let them know how I was, but I never received an answer. The day I got out, I went back home. My family there informed me that they would no longer be considering me a member of the family and that I was to leave the home and not contact any of them for any reason. I attempted to stay with other family, but when I contacted my grandparents, I was told that my parents had called them and several others to tell them that if they kept in contact with me in any capacity, they would cut off contact with them as well. I was able to see how my sister was doing via my mother's Facebook posts, but after liking one I was messaged and told that I am allowed to look at the posts but all other family members will be blocking me, and I am not to interact with my mother's posts. I was completely destroyed and left on the streets. I stayed in a homeless shelter and got a menial job enough to get a rundown apartment and slowly put my life together. I went through therapy to process the extreme grief I felt. I focused on work and did enough school online to finish my degree from when I dropped out at 21. I was able to secure myself a very good position several states away and moved there as soon as I could. 3 years ago, I met the woman who is now my wife. Her father went through a similar struggle with addiction and her family welcomed me with open arms. Last year we got married and 3 months ago we welcomed our son into the world. Of course, being a proud new dad, I posted my boy all over social media to show him off to the world. Since then, I've been inundated with calls and messages telling me that my parents want to meet my son. I have no plans to allow that. My family abandoned me at my lowest and actively worked to cut me off from any familial support I could have had. I am not owed forgiveness for my actions, but I can't pretend that what they did was anything less than complete disownment of me at my most vulnerable. I told them, not very politely, that I do not consider them my real family and that they are to come nowhere near me, my wife, our son, or anyone related to us. I've been getting messages daily about how I never earned their love back and am cheating them out of having a son again. And thus, I owe this to them from my parents and others. I am not giving in at all, nor do I ever plan to. Ada edit. There's been a lot of replies along a broad spectrum of opinions and takes. I may not have replied to them all, but I did read them all. For now, I am stepping back. My wife and I have decided that we are going to be speaking with my parents via a video call and discussing the past 5 years, and where everyone stands as of today to gauge where we all are and decide how to move forward. I'll be taking everything I've read here into consideration in how I decide to approach this situation. I've seen a lot of people wanting updates. I will post an update on this when the dust has settled and I can say with some certainty what's going to be happening. Thank you all for your words of kindness and otherwise. Every one of them is appreciated. Comments. Comment 1. How are you supposed to earn their love back when they made every possible effort to shut you out? Comment 2. Moreover, I think everyone can understand that OP had to earn their trust back, but the love for OP should have been there unconditionally and all the time. Comment 3. Make all of your social media private. Share with your in-laws how you feel and make sure they have your back. More than one well-meaning relative has been known to leak photos or even plan an ambush for a happy family reunion. Good luck. NTA. Comment 4. Forgiveness is optional and access to your child is a privilege, not a right. Comment 5. Forgiveness is optional and access to your child is a privilege, not a right. Particularly in light of this statement, I've been getting messages daily about how I never earned their love back. I'm okay. I'm old and slow now. However, will someone please explain to the rapidly aging old person here how OP was supposed to do that when they were completely blocked from all of their former family socials, and the other family members were threatened with also being cut off from the rest of the family forever and ever? Amen. If they gave OP any info seriously, I'm not seeing how that was even going to be remotely possible. And now they are yelling about grace and forgiveness. Really, that's a bold stance to take given how they set all of this up back when they cut OP off. But I guess that's just when it's convenient for them and not the other way around. NTA Emo Judgment NTA Update. A little bit back, I posted a thread on this sub. I want to thank everyone for their words, both kind and unkind. I look back on that post and feel like I did not hit the mark in some areas for how I expressed myself in the situation. And so it was interpreted in wildly different ways by different people. I initially wanted to address those, but to be honest, I'm ready to leave this behind. So, I'm not going to do that. The only thing I will add clarity to since it came up several times is that my family did not pay for my stay in rehab. I was making less than $20,000 per year and my employer only offered an HSA for health benefits. So, I qualified for Medicaid and had been on that since I moved out of the house. Medicaid in my state pays for the cost of inpatient rehab. And this is how my treatment was funded. For the sake of brevity and so that I don't dwell on it longer than I should, I will briefly run through some relevant context and a short summary of what my father expressed to me during our conversation. To add some context that I think explains his mindset, I will give some of my father's history here. He came from China to the US to attend college and fell in love with the country. My father hates China and communism. He saw America as a land where he could have the opportunity to thrive in ways he couldn't in his home country. So he married an American woman and stayed here starting his own business. My father's dream was that one day he would pass this business down to his son, then to his grandson, continually passed down as his legacy. He was very much a tiger parent. And my mother, having always been very submissive, followed suit. I'd been told from a young age that this is what my future would be, and my life was curated around it, down to what university I would attend and my major. All of this will give context to my father's position. The call was just me, my wife, and my father. It was a long and awkward conversation, but here is the gist of it. My father regards my bisexuality and my decision to not finish college as direct actions of ungratefulness to his efforts in raising me and feels that I have not been thankful that he did not take action against me earlier. Me being Bishu still left room to marry a woman and have children, so he did not interfere with it. He could still teach me how to manage the business, even if I needed to hire others to help with the physical labor involved with it. So, he got past the fact that I dropped out of college. However, it was not the stealing that broke the camel's back to him. It was the fact that I used drugs at all. He was upset that I had stolen from the house, but to him, it was ultimately inconsequential compared to me abusing a substance. The fact that I used drugs at all meant that I could not be trusted with his legacy. And since I could not contribute to the family legacy, it was necessary to cut me out of the family entirely to avoid the shame of having an addict among them. He made it clear that this is how he felt then and that his feelings have not changed, nor will they ever change, no matter how clean I stay or how successful I become, because I ruined his dream. Despite this, I owe him a debt of gratitude by leaving the family vacant of a son to pass his legacy down to. Now that I have a son of my own, there is potential my father's legacy could be passed down to him. As someone who used drugs, this necessitates him and my mother stepping in to ensure my son is properly raised into the position I was to inherit. I did not get to speak to my mother to ask her about the messages she had sent me. The call ended pretty abruptly when my wife realized that it wasn't a conversation that would go anywhere. I was in a bad spot for the weekend after that Friday night. I cannot express with words how thankful I am that my wife was there to help me stay sane. I am going to spend the rest of my life doing every possible thing I can to be as much of a rock for her as she is for me. Right now, most of that is in the form of taking on any and all housework in addition to doing my part to take care of the baby while her body recovers. As our son grows up, I'll keep finding new ways to let her know how much I appreciate her. As for the future, this is what we've decided. On my part, I'm going to work a lot less. For those wondering, I ended up being a technical writer, and it's a job I'm quite good at. It also pays for us to live very comfortably, even if I go well below a full-time work schedule. When I met my wife, I used work as my distraction. Marco Pierre White was correct when he said, "Work is the best painkiller mankind has ever come up with." However, I don't think this is a healthy way to cope now that I have a child. I've decided I'll use the extra time off of work to attend an extra therapy session every week for more intensive treatment and to help develop some better coping mechanisms that don't involve me working myself into an early grave. As for our son, we have decided that my parents will not be a part of his life for the foreseeable future. We aren't sure what we will tell him, but as he grows up and we see more of his personality, we plan to speak with a counselor who has experience in child psychology to find a way to approach the subject that won't be distressing or confusing for him. A lot of people mention the idea of me taking my wife's name. We floated that for a bit, but ultimately we've decided that we will be choosing a new family name entirely. It feels like more of a fresh start for a new legacy. We aren't sure which name we will go with yet, but we hope to have that done by the end of the year. And honestly, that's pretty much it. There isn't much else to report. I know this update will get a wide range of responses. Sorry to disappoint, but I will not be reading or responding to any of them. I know the man that I've become. I know I am a capable father and loving husband. I know I have a disease that puts me at a disadvantage when it comes to anyone's trust or respect because of my choices in the past. And I know that despite them, I will continue to be the best man I can be for my family. And as much as I appreciate all the responses, I don't need to hear strangers on Reddit praise and condemn me to know that it's true. I'm going to log out of this account after posting this, and I will not be logging back in. Thanks for reading comments. Comment 1. Your father sees you as an investment for his dreams and not as a person. When you did not give the dividend he expected, he got rid of the asset. Now that there is a new asset, he wants to use his history as a shareholder to get the buying option to start over, but only under the stipulation that he be the CEO to make sure that this time there will be a nice payout for him. You see the way it goes. You do right to stop your investor, father, and his whole family from even knowing your child. He deserves better, and you too. It is great that you have a wife that sees that with you and supports you so much. Your father will never see his role in all that happens. Be happy with the people that love you unconditionally and the people you love the same way. That's the best life. Comment 2. Your dad's a real clown shoe. In what universe did he think practically demanding your kid to raise just to make up for your drug use, upsetting his plans, would work in his favor? Blocking your family is a good idea, but you might want to prepare in case your parents won't take no contact for an answer and try some grandparents' rights plan or something equally nonsensical to get access. Comment 3. Let me put it this way. Your father raised a son who took drugs, stole from family, had to go to rehab, and only became successful once the said son was completely apart from that father. So, he has some audacity to imply he has to make sure your son gets raised properly when he is objectively the failure as a parent. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your